right, so it's a pleasure to welcome Ron Park, who's the founder of Kōrure. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Yeah, great to join you today.
Yeah, it's good to have you on the podcast. And I think we connected at one of the UCE sort of events, didn't we?
Yeah. I think it was Sustainability Challenge or one of those ones.
That's it.
And we had a chat, and then we figured out they were both UCSA execs.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Former
execs.
Yeah. So we had a bit in common. And what I'd love to do on the podcast is really tell stories about people who've started businesses or doing interesting things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in your case, you've got a fascinating story. So that's what we're going to unlock here. But not just the business. What I'd love to do is find out about people's backstories in order to be able to explain like how they got into what they're doing today. So in your case, if you could tell us a little bit about where you're from.
I'm from Korea, so I moved to New Zealand when I was about 8 or 9, I think 2004.
Okay.
Went to Whenuapan Primary, which is Christchurch, went to Coleman Intermediate, Christchurch, and then went to Stack, St Andrews College, and I went to Canterbury, so I pretty much grew up in Christchurch. Yeah.
Cool. So what do you remember about Korea? Like 8 or 9, I remember being 8 or 9. Like
yes.
It's that transitional stage from being a child, and your memories are basically the photos that your parents show you.
Yes, yeah.
And actually, I kind of remember like 8 or 9. So what do you remember of Korea?
Korea, I guess I just remember being... I just remember going to school, and it was really different in a way that the teaching and stuff like that. So I used to, I think in Korea, just in general, they prioritize in education. So I remember going to school as an elementary school kid, and then after school, I think it's 3 or 4, when you finish, I would have private tuitions lined up back to back until night time.
Right.
So that was a memory that I cannot let go. So I'll do, taekwondo class for fitness. I learned cello. I did cello for a long time. I have some sort of brain exercise tuitions. It's really quite funny. It's about like Lego blocks and stuff like that to make my thought process better. So it's very different to New Zealand. So that's what I remember from Korea. And another memory is just leaving Korea. That was quite hard. I'm just saying goodbye to my family and friends. But that's what I can remember of Korea.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that bit, but just the extra tuition and things like so you're only 7 or 8 or whatever, and you're going after school to extra school.
Exactly.
It's quite a different mindset, isn't it? Because I lived in Japan for 5 years, and I worked as an English teacher, and I used to help these students come in, and they would be like a little bit older, maybe 13, 14, but they'd be cramming English. And so they would come, I would have a class like from 5 till 6 or 6 till 7 at night, for these young kids. It was a really different approach.
So definitely it's a cultural thing, I believe. I think just going back to how it all began, I think it's to do with Korean War and how poor Korea was. So apparently Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world, like poorer than most African countries at the time after the war. And since South Korea didn't have much resources around, they had to rely on education and technology. So from what I know is that they focused on education from then, and just culturally people just focus on education, and just your everyday normal school days weren't enough. They wanted to be better. So parents wanted their kids to be better than
2.5 hours left.
Oh, perfect. Hopefully we don't use it all that up.
No, I don't think we will. All right, so I'll edit this in the podcast, but for the people watching on the video, there may be a little jump, and basically the SD card ran out. So So let's go back to the bit about the education. I'll just ask you a question about that.
Definitely.
So it really kind of centered back to the Korean War and that time, and the people coming out of that realizing that education was a way to get ahead.
Exactly. So the reason why I spoke of the background story is because it wasn't just my family, it was everyone. So that's what I want to emphasize on. It's just a cultural thing.
It's just a cultural thing.
Definitely.
Everybody. And I guess similar, in a way in Japan as well, they had the devastation of the war as well. And but I hear, it's fascinating, isn't it, to think back of what is it that influences culture.
Exactly.
And, definitely the devastation from war
Yeah.
would be a big one.
Yeah. And so just following from that, the reason why I came to New Zealand was also because of education. So my parents wanted me and my sisters to have a better education in English and experience the overseas education. So yeah, it just kind of all flows through in my life in terms of why I'm here and who I am as well. Yeah,
it's part of the story.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So do you remember the day that they came to you and said, "Have you heard of this place called New Zealand? Because we're going." Or was it do you have any memory of that?
I actually do. So just need to tell another background story. Is that my older sister, used to travel, and she actually fell in love with Christchurch in New Zealand because she used to travel heaps. And she came to Cashmere Hill, I believe, and then she looked at the night sky and then looked at the beautiful stars, a little bit different to where we're from, where we can't see stars.
Right.
And she decided to live here. So she came back to Korea, convinced her parents to let her live there and study there. And after a year, she kind of decided that as a teenager, she couldn't handle being alone, so she was at homestay, and then asked my mom to live with her. And since she's the oldest, I have another sister that's older than me, middle child, and I'm the youngest. She said, if I'm going, I have to look after the kids, so I have to take Ron.
Take the family?
Yeah, take the family there.
Wow.
So
so it's your older sister that really is the origin.
Yeah, so it was more like, mom's going to New Zealand, you're going too, sort of thing. And it was like a very sudden decision. So I believe we had to wrap everything up in a couple of months, and pack everything and to say goodbye to family and friends, and off we went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like arriving in New Zealand?
I was quite young, so I can't quite remember, but I just remember that it was different.
Yeah.
I could feel it on my skin. It was different. Obviously, surrounding, the people, the language, everything was different, but I just felt it on my skin. And the vivid memory that I have is Fenelon Primary School. I hated it. I absolutely hated going to school. I cried every single day because I couldn't speak the language.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because you said, I imagine you'd learned a few basic English words, but probably coming in, not speaking fluently at all, right?
Yeah, I remember all I could say was like, "Hello, my name's Ron," or something simple like that.
Yeah.
And I just struggled a lot because I was more of an introvert at the time, and I loved reading books, and I wasn't a kid who would go run around and play sports. I was a kid reading books at home. So I'm coming here, strange place, different place. So I struggled a lot, and that's my memory.
How did you cope with that, or did it just, as you learned the language, it got better, or what happened next?
I remember one particular friend, my best friend, still friends with him, best friend, Jave. He kind of took me under his wing at the time, and I started playing rugby. And that was the biggest thing for me, was playing sports, and they kind of that's how I overcame the language barrier. I was able to actually connect with people and friends on a physical level, and that kind of goes beyond language. And just being able to talk and speak the language kind of helped as well. And I think for the first 2 years I thought it was horrible, but then after that it got better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And your friend Jave, what was it about him that I guess meant that he took you under his wing? I love that picture, but do you know what was going on there?
I'm not too sure. Jay was an introvert kid as well, I remember. And I'm not sure what his thought process was at the time. It was a while ago. But I believe that we kind of connected in a way that we're both sort of introverts and we're both quiet. And I guess, I think it's a Kiwi culture to support the underdog sort of thing, like support the kid doesn't really have friends and things like that. So,
so maybe saw some similarities and
definitely. So I still thank him for that, actually.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, shout out to him. I love people in life journeys, and you look back and it's like, this person helped. Because of course then the natural thing is, who's that person for you? Like, who could you help that needs, and I'm talking really to the listeners right now.
Yeah.
How can we help each other? Yeah. Oh, that's great. So coming through your, your high school years, like, did you know what area you enjoyed the most? Like, you mentioned you like reading and things.
Yeah. I think during puberty I changed a lot and I became an extrovert. But just going back to your question, I've always known that business was the way for me.
Okay.
My dad's a business owner. Grew up watching him do his business, and I really looked up to that. And I just kind of wanted to own my own destiny. That's always been my part. Nothing against people who doesn't. It's just personal preference.
Yeah.
And So
your dad was a big role model or influence for you?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So he ran a construction company and he does a bit of property stuff. I just remember, I still have this memory. I was super young, but I remember his company was doing a big hospital construction.
Okay.
So my memory of that was, all the important people were in these suits and had a orange vest on and a hard hat on. And then I just remember I was by my dad's side and I just remember all these group of people just following him, taking notes, and him just pointing at people, like telling them what to do, and that I just cannot let go. And I just thought, that's someone I want to be.
Huh.
Yeah. And so during high school I didn't know what I wanted to do, just like any old kid.
Yeah. But you were playing rugby and extrovert.
But then I just knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to be a business owner, so my interests were like accounting and economics and things like that. But at the time it was just whatever. But I kind of came to realize what I wanted after high school.
Okay.
I kind of thought, what do I actually want to do?
Yeah.
Time to get serious and choose my destiny.
Was there a dynamic in that growing up here, like that? Okay, one day we're going to return to Korea as a family? Like, was that part of it? Like, you'd come for the studies and things, and then we're going to go back home?
Yeah.
Or, I'm just always curious about, like, where is home?
That's a very good question because you're bang on the nail.
Right.
So, it was meant to be 2 years we study here and then go back. So, at the time, just to give you an idea, is my dad had a business, so he was living in Korea. So it was quite hard for mum and dad mum had to look after us here.
Yeah.
So it was initially going to be just 2 years, learn English, come back, continue study. That 2 years turned into 4 years, 5 years. We'll finish high school, we'll finish primary school, and then just keep going until I graduated from university.
Right. Wow. And your mum was here the whole time?
She was here until I turned 18, so she legally had to look after me until I was 18. So
I see.
As soon as I turned 18, she's just, goodbye.
So she's gone back to Korea now?
Yeah, she's gone back as soon as I turned 18. I think that was like 2013.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. But you weren't tempted to also get on the plane and go back to your country of origin, I guess? Or?
Very interesting question. So, three siblings. Eldest one and I decided to stay, and the middle sister, she actually liked Korean, loved Korean culture more, so she actually went back and she became an English teacher. Yeah, so I guess it's just personal preference, and I believe that I'm a Kiwi more than a Korean. Yeah. So it's just decided to stay.
Yeah. Oh, that's really great. Yeah, it's fascinating to think about where your identity is and what is it that forms you and shapes you, and what impact that has, to come here as an 8 or 9 year old.
Yeah.
And clearly it's shaped your identity.
100%. Yeah. I can't imagine myself living my entire life in Korea. My thought process and my beliefs and my passion and things, it would be completely different.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Can I ask, what do you think are the positives of Korean culture that you maybe have brought with you?
Definitely. That's definitely the work ethic. That is something that I believe is the strongest positive characteristic from Korean culture, and I cannot let go of that. And I still work hard. I still work 80 hours, even 100 hours a week. So there are also bad side as well, but the beauty of being bicultural is that you can pick and choose what's positive. Definitely.
Oh, that's good. And for your father, like, it must be quite hard to have said goodbye to his son at age 8, 9, and you're still here.
Yeah, actually, another vivid memory of Korea is leaving the airport. I remember my dad crying, like not literally sobbing, but I could see his eyes getting very teary. And the gate, when it kind of closes when you're departing, I just remember him getting teary. And as a young very if you can imagine a movie, samurai or something, like a very disciplined, strong man, and seeing that, kind of made me cry as well. But it would have been, I'm sure it was very hard for him.
Yeah. But I guess he saw the opportunity that learning English, being fluent in English, would open up for you and your siblings.
Exactly, definitely. I hope he's proud.
Yeah.
Not yet, but hopefully in the future.
Oh, that's great. So we're kind of up to high school, and you stayed here in Christchurch. You went to Canterbury University?
Yes, I did. So I actually had a gap here right after high school. I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and just kind of had a transition period going from naive kid who just didn't know what he wanted to do in life to actually, choosing my destiny in terms of what I wanted to do in the future. So that 1 year I didn't do much. I just kind of decided to do nothing. And
so your mum had just left to leave to go back.
Yeah.
And so you basically stayed here? Or?
Stayed here with my sister, my older sister. She was like my second mum at the time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I just decided to do nothing, just to kind of take my time and learn about myself. And that transition period was quite valuable. And I decided that business is something that I wanted to do. And I planned my life. I literally planned my life. I found a sticky note in my room in terms of my plan, 5-year plan. I haven't achieved all of it, but I've achieved most of it, and starting a business was one of them. It's class.
So that 1 year where you're kind of taking time out and finding yourself and those sorts of things, I'm really curious about that, because I actually think it's a great idea. I think a gap year at that age is potentially so important, because there's so much pressure on, either go work or go get a degree or move on, progress your life. There's very little time for reflection. And I think very often people end up studying things that they kind of feel like, I was kind of good at writing, so maybe I'll do law, or I enjoyed science, so maybe I'll be a scientist. But they don't ever really step back and have that objective time. Tell us more about that year.
I think everyone should take a gap year after high school. It's just because I don't know what it is culturally, I don't know what it's education system. We as younger generation, we just don't know what we want, and we don't know and you shouldn't know what you want. That's the thing. Like at that age, you shouldn't know what you want, and if you don't take your time to think about what you actually want to do, you're bound to be not happy, and happiness is a key to life. And what I've seen a lot, as you mentioned as well, a lot of my friends, or a lot of peers that I knew, they went straight to university, and they ended up doing a different degree. So they would say do law or something. I'm just making an example. And they, by the end of it, they kind of have to finish, but then at the same time they're going, this isn't what I want, and then they'll end up studying something else, and that's 4-5 years wasted in their life. But if they just took that 1 year to really decide what they wanted to do, that wouldn't have happened. I'm not saying that making a mistake is bad. Making a mistake is good because you learn from it. Only if you learn from it. But if you just take a gap year and just really get to know yourself and decide what you want, it'll be very beneficial.
Yeah, that's great. So was there any particular moments or things that happened that meant you felt like you knew yourself better? Like, how did that work?
I think I had a big fight with my dad right after high school. So I was meant to get into the top, he wanted me to get into the top 3, one of the top 3 universities in Korea, right after high school, come back to Korea, pass on his business, the same story you hear. But I didn't get any of them. But mind you, I tried the hardest in my entire life. Like, if I was to turn back time, that's like the time where I tried the hardest in my life. Like, I gave it my 120%, but I still didn't get in. Blessing in disguise, though. And Dad was unhappy, so he actually told me to just go to the army. So in Korea, South Korea, you have to go to mandatory 2 years army. So him being in the office as an officer in 10 years, he's like, all men should go to the army. And I said no. So that was actually my first time saying no to my dad. And that was quite a big fight. And that kind of made me realize who I was in terms of I'm not Korean, I am actually Kiwi. I am Korean. I'm a Korean Kiwi, but I define myself as a Korean Kiwi, not just Korean. And New Zealand, Christchurch is where I belong. Yeah, and this is my community. This is my home. So that's my realization. Yeah, of myself.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting. What is it that crystallizes identity for people? And in your case, it was conflict.
Conflict. Yeah. I was very nervous and scared at the time, but
So, how did you cope with that disappointment of telling your dad or not getting into those universities if that was the plan?
It's very personal, but I actually cried, and I don't cry at all. I can count my hands how many times I cried in my life, and I'm sure you can ask my friends and peers. I never cry, and that time I cried. I hope my friends don't see this. And I actually remember crying to my mum, saying, "I'm sorry, I disappointed you," because I know how much sacrifice my parents made for us, and how much effort. Parents living away from each other, that's huge. Now I kind of know, having a girlfriend and stuff like that, you just kind of know living away from your significant other is very hard. But they did that for us, for our future, for our education, just going back to that, because they saw the importance. So I just coped it in a crying manner. Just got it out in one day. And kind of hid in my room sort of thing, and then apologized to my mom, crying, and then she just kind of said, "It's okay, I'm still proud of you," sort of thing. And I just kind of reflected on myself, and that was the whole thing, going into that gap year, just trying to find myself and things like that.
Well, I really appreciate your openness and sharing this, because I think it is important to acknowledge that life isn't always 100% smiles and happiness, is it? There is, for all of us, there's going to be things that happen, and I think particularly for men, there's a tendency not to admit I didn't make it, or there's a weakness or a failure or whatever it is. Like, I think it's important that we actually are willing to recognize something's bad happened, and and be able to accept it and move on.
100%.
Yeah. Great. So you get through the end of that year, and that's when you enrolled in university?
Yeah, that's correct. So I enrolled in university after that. I decided that I would do accounting and finance, because I knew that knowledge would be very valuable for my business. So everything was planned from then on, and I love planning from that point on. So and I actually started accounting finance degree, and I actually started a business on my first year. So I decided to. What I realized is this is a story about Kōrure in a way. So even before I moved to New Zealand, my mom had been a crazy health food enthusiast, and we would take like 10, 15 pills every morning.
Right.
Yeah. You name it, like green muscle powder, capsule was one of them. Vitamins, manuka honey, just magnesium, just everything. Like literally, we had.
So it was part of your childhood was.
Yes.
Having some supplements. And other
so
things.
Every morning, mom will go, "Kids, hubby, I don't know." Weird saying that. It's like, here's a plate of pills to take in the morning, pills, health supplements, and most of them were from New Zealand, and we didn't even know about New Zealand at the time. So it's quite interesting. This is 16, 18 years ago. So it's quite crazy. And what happened is we continued to take New Zealand supplements when we were here. That had been my life, taking supplements every morning. I still do. And what I realized is that I was taking these supplements, and I would always send these supplements to Korea for my parents and family and friends. I was going, there's a market for it.
People are buying this stuff.
So light bulb moment, ding. And I went, actually, I might try sell it. So I just used to buy it as a consumer, a retail store. I just buy it, and then I'll just sell it through connections or whatever you want to call it. I asked my mum's friend, like, hey, like, if you want to buy
Manuka honey.
Manuka honey. So and that's how it all started. So I hope IID's not listening to this, but I was just, it was a business at the time. I didn't know what I was doing.
But you're like 19, 20 years old.
19 years
old. Trying
to
things out.
Hustle.
Interesting. But I guess because it is all about the story, and that's why I love to find out the background, because it's one thing to say, tell us about your business today, but it's really important, I think, to get the context and where did it come from. So you already have a market in mind, which is, I guess, Korea, Asia, as a potential place that would purchase things that are good for, health.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's how it all began, and then I kind of realized the more and deeper that I went with the industry, I'm just going to be very careful not to name any brands or anything as such, because I don't want to get sued. Is the brands that I was exporting and selling, I got to a stage where they kind of invited me into the factory and they kind of showed me what they're doing and etc. What I realized is that when I went into the back to the factory, I didn't see any machines, but just like bottle fillers. So I kind of realized, like, that's weird. Like, isn't the ingredients made here? Like, sort of thing. And then what I realized is that they just have capsules delivered to New Zealand from China or overseas, and then they just put a label on saying it's made in New Zealand. And mind you, these are one of the products that we've been taking for over 15 years. And that's where my heart crushed, and I just kind of realized there's something wrong in this industry. I'm not going to name any brands, please don't ask me.
It's fine.
And it wasn't just one brand, it was, not saying all, some brands in the industry. So
the image is different to the reality.
100%.
Yeah.
So I believe that it was people in Asia, they pay premium price for these products because they think they have this image of clean green New Zealand, made here, etc., etc. But it's actually packaged here, packaged in New Zealand. Nothing wrong with those capsules or the ingredients. I'm sure they're great, but it's just the fact that it's quite deceiving. Because to me that's lying. To the customers, blatantly. So that's when I kind of realized, okay, I want to
do things a bit differently, maybe.
Do things more transparent. I'm giving these products to my mom, my friends, family friends, people, and my names and my face is at stake in terms of these products. So I kind of realized I don't want to sell these things. This is a bunch of C word, like, poo. And that's where it all started. And another realization I had at the time is that fish market in general is just not sustainable. So sustainability is something that I kind of focus on since at a young age. So just a statistical fact is that only 90% of the fish are being fished unsustainably. So flip that, only 10% is being fished sustainably. So that's a big number. And I was just looking at, so I had that sustainability in mind. I had this heartbroken entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur. And I just kind of wanted to add in what came and what kind of brought me together is Greenland mussel. So first of all, Greenland mussel is grown in New Zealand. You can't lie about that. It's native to New Zealand. So it's pure New Zealand. And the other side is that it's super sustainable. So just to give you an idea, the Greenland mussel, you drop a rope, just saying it easily, they grow. They're bottom feeders. You don't have to feed them. You don't have to, do much. And they are one of the most sustainable seafood in the world. They are actually rated by United Fisheries, United Seafood Program. So that's where everything kind of clicked for me in place, like a puzzle. And then that's why I decided to start the company. So what year was this of your studies? Like, is it the final year, or because you also were involved with the summer starter, right? The UCE. Yes, UCE summer, UCE entrepreneurship summer startup. So that was 2017-18. So I had this idea in my final year in 2017. So I was already making progress I registered the company, and I decided on the products and stuff like that. And then the UCE I joined, it starts at the end of 2017, so I got involved with UCE, and that's where it kind of grew as in a way that they told me what I had to do, mentors. I learned heaps because at the time I just had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you had an end goal, but not sure how to get there, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And just a shout out to UCE for the great work that they do, right?
100% shout out to UCE. James, Dr. Rachel Wright, thank you. If you're watching, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, I'd love to highlight people who are helping other people because it's such a critical role, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how many people were on that summer program?
I believe there was, maybe 20 to 30, the cohort, and
so it's quite intense, right? Like you're given a set time period and then you do some presentations at the end of the summer, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think I was in the audience, like I remember seeing you presenting. Because I go
really?
to those, I go to those was it in February or?
Yes, it's in February, yeah.
So that's it, right? Over the summer you're preparing it and you're pitching.
Yeah, definitely. It's quite intense, but at the same time they give you enough room for flexibility in terms of the students or the young entrepreneurs to have a creative mind and then think on their feet.
Yeah.
So I think it's, in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, is one of the best programs a young entrepreneur can get involved.
Yeah.
UC is not paying me for this for anything. I think it's something that, even if you're not interested in business, it's something that you should try out because you might, find yourself that you are an entrepreneur and you might have, a passion for it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, that's good. So what would be the top skill that you learned through that, do you think? Like from the beginning to the end? What was it that you...
If I had to pick one skill?
Yeah, just...
I think, I wouldn't say it's a skill, but networking.
Okay.
So I remember we had a speaker every morning. I think it was every morning, every second morning, a mentor come in, do a presentation to us, and kind of talk to us about their journey. And then we had a separate time to talk to them afterwards if we were interested. And some of my mentors are from UC already. Shout out to Michael and shout out to Lloyd as well. They've been my mentors since the beginning.
Great.
So yeah. I think that's the key thing, networking and just talking to people who's been through that journey already, and that's so valuable because they've already made the mistakes for you and they're teaching you not to make those mistakes. So yeah,
I guess if you're humble enough to listen and learn from people, right?
Exactly. That's another key as well. yeah.
Oh, that's great. So you get to the end of that program and then what happened next? Did it feel like this is actually, it's got legs, it's viable?
So no, I guess a health supplement thing, the thing with health supplement is it takes a long time for it to prepare and to produce and make. So I didn't have my product until March 2018. So that was after the program. So at the time I had a job lined up as an accountant at Staples Rodway. So I decided to be an accountant and try that out. And see whether, still at the time I wasn't too sure whether I wanted to be an accountant or what was my future.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to be a businessman in the future, but I don't know it was the right timing. So I became an accountant. I decided to study for my CA, etc. And I was just side hustling. Doing my accounting job 9 to 5, and then I would go back home and then do my I work on Kōrure, and actually I always go to the gym as well. Fitness is key. Just adding that is important for me. So and on the weekends, no partying, no drinking, just save money and just work on Kōrure and on the business. So and there came a time, I think end of 2018, I decided to go full time, and I was quite ready by then. And and I made a decision to take the leap of faith. And go full time, and I think it was the best decision I've made. So far.
Was there a moment that you made that decision, or was it a building thing that a whole bunch of factors meant that yes, I'm going to do it? Or
I just came to a realization that I would never make a decision if I was waiting for a sign.
Right.
So at the time, just being honest, I don't think I had enough revenue to support my lifestyle, but I just knew that if I was doing full-time job and side hustling, I wasn't going to get anywhere. So I just struggled a lot with obviously working, and then studying for CA Chartered Accountancy is not easy. And obviously on top, running a business on the side was super difficult. So I had to make a decision. I talked to a lot of my mentors. I talked to my friend, Troy, who owns Bacon Brothers. I talked to him, and then we used to work at ANZ together while I was at uni.
Okay.
Yeah, and I kind of saw his process of leaving his full-time job at ANZ to starting his burger business. So I talked to him, and then just talking to people about it, and just coming to the realization that there's never a perfect time. Just gotta do it. Yeah.
Well, I love that though, and I think that's really important for the listeners to be hearing, because lots of them will have projects, they'll have side hustles, they'll have ideas, they'll have concepts that maybe waiting for the moment that it's right. But I think I agree with you. Probably if you're waiting for that sign, it's not going to come. And I think as well, I've been reflecting more that it's all about the journey, right? Like you got to enjoy every aspect of it, and not be waiting for some perfect moment to come. When your business is successful, like enjoy the early stages as well. So.
Exactly. Struggle is, I think, if you look back at it, it's part of the journey, and I think you kind of need that in a business. If you don't struggle and everything's just rainbows and butterflies and all that, that's a boring journey.
It's probably not a realistic one, is it?
No, it's not realistic, and even if it does happen to someone, or it happen, I wouldn't want that for me. I think the struggle does make you better and stronger.
I agree. Well, for the people listening, some of them, like I say, will have ideas that they just haven't put into place. So your experience is get out there and give it a go, right?
Yep, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, you've got nothing to lose, especially if you're under age 30. What have you got to lose? Like, as soon as you get married and you have mortgage for your house, you've got all those risks, or not a risk, but you've got things to take care of.
Yeah,
but
responsibilities.
Yeah. So when you're young, that's the best time. I think it's very cliche. Like, a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs talk about it, but it's so true. Like, if you don't do it now, when? And the less responsibility, the better. Not saying that older, there are people that started their business after having a family or in their 40s and 50s as well, and it's never too late, in my opinion.
No, but I get your point, and I think you're right. And I think for me anyway, one of my own life life inspirations is, what will I look back with regret on?
Right.
If I made it to 95 and I looked back, would I regret not having done this thing or this thing? And that's really been a helpful guiding principle for me, because it throws it into sharp relief if there's some difficult decision to be made and you think, well, when I'm at the end of my life, am I going to regret not having gone for it, embraced whatever it is? And that's helped me anyway.
I think that's the really good way to see it, and I think I agree 100%. Living life with any regrets?
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a bit about the business, and just starting with the name Kōrure. What does it mean? And how did you end up focusing on this particular?
So the name kind of was the hardest decision I've ever made. It actually took 6 months to decide on a name, because at the time I had pages and pages of names, generic names like something healthy, something good, life, and this particular name kind of stuck with me because of the meaning behind it. So Kōrure means to change directions in Māori. It also means motu petrol bird, which is native to New Zealand, but I focus on the first, change of direction, and I really kind of resonated with me. So if you ever look at the logo, it's actually two opposite facing arrows, as in showing the direction.
I see.
Yeah, and it kind of comes together to resemble a DNA, which is, I believe, in the science and the health. And so it just stuck with me, and I myself love Māori culture, and coming from a different culture, I think New Zealand is a beautiful place with biculturalism and respecting the Māori culture. You don't see that too often overseas, so there's something that I've strived to be, and I believe myself as a Kiwi, and promoting Māori culture is being a Kiwi. So that's the story behind the name.
Well, I love what you said as well, that it took you 6 months to come up with the name, which I think is probably a good thing, because it's so easy just to pick something. But it's that thought, and I've said this before on the podcast, but I call this podcast Seeds, and it's one word, it's simple, and everyone understands the moment I say it. Whereas if I'd gone with a a one-line vision statement, or some other more complicated name, it's just, no, it's Seeds. That's it.
That's it.
And everyone can get it. Oh, okay, seeds, you plant them, they grow, or it resonates in some way. And I think spending time on that, getting a name right is important.
That's very important. Yeah. I had my struggles. A lot of customers can't pronounce our name properly, but then I think it's more to do with the belief behind the name that's more important, because people get used to it and they start calling us muscle company and other names. But but it's I think it's important to actually believe in the name that you truly believe, because I'm proud of it and I can back it up 100%.
Yeah, and you've got a good story to explain it. So that, I presume, would be part of the messaging, is there's a meaning here.
Definitely, it's not just a random name.
So you mentioned before New Zealand is clean and green and things. So just talk us through what the particular product is that you're really focusing on, and what it is that you're hoping that it will help people with.
Yeah. So if you can see from that photo there, it's Greenland mussel. So all our mussels come from Marlborough Sounds. So reason behind we chose Greenland mussel is because for the fact that it's sustainable, and it's we call it #fish oil on steroids. Reason being is the sustainable side, and then all the different spectrum of omega-3s that's present in the mussels. So I do believe most people are aware of omega-3s and the benefits. But general consumers only know about omega-3, and if they do know about a little bit more, they only know about omega-3 EPA and DHA. So there are a whole other range of other omega-3s that are present. In Greenland mussel in particular, it has most of those omega-3s, and the one that we kind of particularly focus on is omega-3 ETA.
Okay.
So omega ETA is quite a new omega-3 that people didn't know about, so there's not much study done on it, but we believe that is reason why it has such a good properties and why it's fish oil on steroids.
I see. Yeah. So just talk us through omega-3, because I think we have to assume that not everybody does know exactly, and I'd be curious, just the short version of what is the benefit.
So omega-3's benefit has a lot of benefits, and it's been one of the fatty acids that's been studied very heavily for the past 50 years. So put it simply, the benefits of omega-3 is that it's good for your heart, it's good for your joints, and it's also good for your eyes as well. So there are a lot of research done on omega-3 and its benefits of reducing heart risk by 40%. Actually, it's really good for pregnant women as well for the development of the babies, reducing 44% in premature birth rate. So omega-3 has those benefits, but to just give you a background on omega-3, I just get quite geeky when I'm talking about this. Can't believe an accountant would talk about omega-3s like this. But so omega-3 is something that you cannot produce in your body. You have to consume it. So but it's vital for your body because it makes your eyes, a lot of the vital organs, brain needs omega-3. So it kind of works with the cell membrane in a way that it's very vital for your body. So therefore, hence why it's kind of going, your body can't make it, you need to consume it for your eyes and for your heart and all the vital organs. That's why it's quite important. And once again, there are different versions of omega-3s, but what people focus on are the EPA and DHA. And that's the part where we know, in terms of scientifically, we know that it gives benefits to the things that I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
Does that explain it well?
Yeah, I just jumped to and then just jumping to the actual, I guess the physical benefits of taking omega-3. Like, is it for joints and you mentioned eyes and brain, so presumably it's good for those things too. Yeah,
so benefits, it's a superfood. It's good for your well-being, eyes, heart, joints, and everything. One that we focus on for Greenland mussel is the joints. So the reason behind that is this is separate to omega-3, but the proteins that's inside Greenland mussel, it's called GAGs, short name for glycosaminoglycans. That's a long word. Yeah, I said it right now. So what glycosaminoglycans do is that they are pretty much building blocks of your cartilage. So a lot of people know what glucosamines are. Do you know glucosamine?
I don't think so, no.
So glucosamine became very popular in the last 10 years regarding, it's a building block of your cartilage.
Okay.
So the GAGs are a broken down version of glucosamine. So meaning that kind of goes straight, when you consume it, it kind of goes straight to your joints for your cartilage. So it's good for your cartilage rebuild. And most of the joint problems that people have is due to friction, osteoarthritis. Your cartilage gets worn out, and your bone starts grinding, and that's why you get the pain and the inflammation. So Greenland mussel, the gag, helping with the cartilage rebuild, that's really good for it. And also the omega-3 is just good for the joints and well-being in general.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, I think there's definitely a focus these days on, more than in the past, on healthy eating. And particularly I've noticed recently, I don't know about you, but just people are getting more into consuming natural, vegetables and organic, rather than red meat. And is that a shift that is actually happening?
Yeah, I do believe so. People are more health conscious, just in general. One thing I live by, and I do tell our customers and my friends, is WOF, Warren Fitness. Don't wait until you need surgery or you need to fix things. Do your Warren Fitness by eating healthy and exercising now, so that you are healthy in the future. I think it's a cultural thing in New Zealand that's she'll be right sort of thing, that people don't really look after themselves when they're young or when they're healthy. It's quite different in Asia, as I've mentioned about my childhood. People take supplements to do that, and potentially that's why I'm so healthy. We'll see about that, but I do believe myself that I'm pretty healthy. Well,
there's crazy stats about the cost to society of the diabetes epidemic and the various things that come from having obese issues that probably could be solved by what's going into the body, right?
100%. So that's another passion of mine. So I don't know, a geeky side of me coming out once again. So there's omega-3 and there's omega-6. Sorry, are you aware of omega-6?
I don't think I am. I need to know.
So omega-6 is another lipid or fatty acid that's your body can't produce. So just to give you a background on omega-6, it's vital for your body, but at the same time, it causes inflammation in your body. But mind you, omega-6 is important, and inflammation is important to a certain extent in your body, because when you're sick, you heat up, right? That's your body fixing itself. So you need inflammation, but not too much. So what's happening, what's important here, before I speak a little bit about our diet and how we should change our diet, is that omega-3 and omega-6 ratio is super critical for human body in terms of the health, just in general. So the golden ratio is known to be 4 omega-6 and 1 omega-3. Healthcare professionals or skin rejuvenating clinics say omega-3 and 6, 1-to-1 ratio is actually the optimum. And I do believe 1-to-1 is optimum as well. But this is statistics in US, not in New Zealand. But guess what the actual ratio of people have in their body is to omega-3?
Probably not enough,
So the statistic in US, it's either 25-to-1, 25 omega-6, so 1 omega-3, or a minimum 12-to-1. So that's horrendous. That's really bad for you. And I'll explain why that is if you're interested. So the reason why we have such a high level of omega-6 in our body is because of processed food. And people say processed food are bad, etc., but they don't know the reason behind it. So the reason behind why processed food are bad is because omega-6 is contained a lot in some soybeans, corn oil, things like that, and dairy product as well. And what happens is when you, since it's cheap to make, they fry and process all these processed food with corn oil or soybean oil. Since it's cheap, they use it. Just economics, capitalism. And what they do is, by using this and using it as a processed food, and when omega-6 is heated up in a high temperature, it actually attacks your DNA, and it also produces inflammation. As I mentioned before, omega-6 causes inflammation, and that's why our modern Western diet, I'll emphasize on Western diet, that is the reason why we have such a high in omega-6. And I believe, and a lot of scientists believe, that the increased rate in cancer and heart attacks and all these physical problems is due to processed food and high level of omega-6. So that's one thing that I kind of tell my peers and family is you need to get that right. And consuming omega-3 helps with correcting that balance. because it's not about how much you consume, it's about the ratio. Just key fact. So that's why if you don't take muscle oil, for example, take fish oil. Just take, actually eating, don't take supplements, actually eating is the best way to go. Eat your mussels, eat your, Asian people eat a lot of sashimi, it's rich salmon, they like sashimi. Asian people are healthier than Western people because of their diet. They eat more omega-3s and they have that good balance. I just wanted to share that because a lot of people don't know about it and it kind of frustrates me. Yeah.
No, it's good. And I think in the future, I think people will look back and think about diet and realize that people were actually maybe poisoning themselves based on what they were eating. And it does come back in a way to the capitalism, like what is it that's going into these noodles and processed foods and all this stuff, to preserve them, to make them more sellable, I've noticed recently that I'm buying more fish, just fresh fish, and it tastes good, and I know it's healthier than some of the other options. So
definitely. It's crazy how much we don't know. I've only found out about this knowledge in the last 2 years, and I've been sharing it. Obviously, thank you for inviting me here and having the opportunity to actually share this. I'm quite happy I can share this because I feel like I'm not doing my part as a society about knowing this and not sharing it. Yeah.
Well, that's what I love about the podcast is the guests are so varied, and that's why I'm asking you about omega-3 and omega-6 and stuff, because I don't know that much. And I think most of the people listening as well will be like, oh, that was interesting. So
definitely.
That's good. So just coming back to the business and just, I guess, thinking about the entrepreneurial journey, like what have been some of the lessons that you've learned? Like if you could give yourself advice a year ago, that sort of thing. What have you learned since going full-time, since end of, was it 2018 that you started full-time?
The learns, I think not giving up is the biggest one, and also learning from your mistakes. Like learn from it, like make mistakes but learn from it and don't ever make it happen again. It's another important one. And I think this is very personal, but there are a lot of good people out there, so don't shy away from hiding your idea or hiding what you're doing because it's a top secret sort of thing. You'll realize that people are there to help, and they want to see you succeed. So that's I guess something that I personally thought was like, people don't want to see me succeed, or they're not going to help me, they don't care about me, but actually
so you found it's a pretty generous community. If you've got an issue, people will be there for you.
Exactly. Great thing about UC, Ministry of Awesome, they've been great as well. And I've got a lot of people to pay back.
Lots of mentors and advice, huh?
Exactly, so there are a lot of good people out there, so just reach out, don't be shy. Reach out
and a shout out to Jacob at Ministry of Awesome.
Jacob at Ministry of Awesome.
He's great. And
he's amazing, good friend of mine. So
that's cool. And just thinking about, because we talked before we started recording that one of the previous guests, Michael Mayo, is that he's somebody that you've been working with and doing things with. Do you want to tell us about any of those sort of projects?
So another interest that I have is hemp cannabis and CBD specifically due to its anti-inflammatory properties. I like to say that I care about people's joints. So we have been working on Whakamana. So it's we believe that it will be the best cannabis museum in the world. So Stephen, have you been to the Cannabis Museum in Sydney?
I don't think so.
No?
Where is it?
So it's in Manchester Street.
Okay.
So there's a little greenhouse there as a museum, and you can go there and Michael or Abe will greet you and then talk to you about and educate you. So our goal is to essentially educate people about cannabis. So there has been a stigma of cannabis being evil, it's bad, it's drug and whatnot, but in reality it's not true. So cannabinoids, cannabis, there's hemp and there's marijuana. Difference is hemp has a very low level of THC, which is a hallucination factor, and marijuana has high level of THC. In fact, hemp is one of the fastest growing plant in the world, and it's very sustainable. It's very, very sustainable. It helps the soil that it grows on. It can be used for clothing. It can be used for many things. And obviously can be for medical as well, for CBD and THC also.
So that's the aspect that you're focusing on?
Yes.
Because I know there's lots of reforms sort of in the pipeline, I guess.
Yes.
But also around testing for medicinal purposes.
So CBD is actually considered pharmaceutical medicine in New Zealand already, and I hope that CBD becomes a health supplement so that it'll be more readily available for people just in general, because the benefits of CBD is incredible. Just going back to the whakamana, what we want to achieve is educational facility. So we want to educate people about why cannabis is not evil and it's actually really good for you and it's future of New Zealand. So it can replace a lot of the meat industry in New Zealand. It can be pretty much used for anything. It can be used for clothing. It can be used as a concrete, fireproof, quite crazy. You can have hemp milk, just so many various ways of using hemp or cannabis just in general. And we also want to have a cafe there to educate people and kind of act as like a tourist spot in Christchurch in city, because at the moment Christchurch city is being built up and we're attracting tourists, but at the moment it's not there yet. So we want to be part of the attraction that why people come to New Zealand as well.
No, that's interesting. I think it would pay for me to learn more, because I think for me, I do have lots of preconceptions around cannabis. When you use the word cannabis, immediately there's lots of things that spring to mind. But having said that, I do know there's a lot of other aspects of the plant. And if you describe it as hemp, it's a very different reaction.
Yes.
Because I think hemp, it is something that is very fast growing and is usable for clothing. It can be harvested and it can be a food product as well. So definitely. It's interesting. Well, we'll keep an eye out and see how it develops. But a shout out to Michael and his episode. I think it's like episode 15 or 16. As we record this, we're up to 138. So he was one of the first ones. We recorded in this room actually.
Oh really? He was here.
He was here.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. And I said to him, I want to have him on as a second episode, because we didn't talk about everything that he was involved in. He had a piece of paper and he was like, drinkable rivers and all these other things as well.
Definitely.
So,
he's an inspirational man, definitely. He was the one that got me into cannabis and whakamana. So he's a great guy. I've known him for quite a few years now, but I kind of look up to him in a way that once he believes in something, he truly believes in it and then promotes it, with all his heart. So forgot to mention is that for whakamana we are doing crowdfunding next month on the 20th of November. So we'll be releasing that. So you can buy one share, $1 per share, and minimum of 50 shares, so $50 minimum purchase. And you'll get to be part of the journey and you'll get to own the part of the company. So we've got big plans for the museum. It's a beautiful place. Next time you drive by, it's an old heritage building. We want to rebuild that into cafeteria and we want to make it into a nightclub, alcohol-free nightclub. I don't know if you're familiar, but the nightlife in New Zealand, not in Christchurch, just in general, there's a lot of alcohol involved and, that compared to alcohol-free nightclub where everyone's kind of just relaxing and enjoying that. That's something that I think will be very beneficial in our community as well. Something that you can actually go at late night, not, drunk off your face. Well, since we're talking about health products, I think actually in the future, one day, people are going to look back and just look at the overconsumption of alcohol within a society like New Zealand. It's not actually that great. For many health reasons. But people do overconsume. And it's kind of acceptable, even though it's not doing anything healthy to your body. So exactly. Quite similar to what we talked about before the interview, the smoking. You said the 1940s or 1960s?
No, even later in the 1980s. Like when I was a kid, I remember being on a plane and in the seats there was a place for your cigarette. You know, you could put your ashes there. So it was hardwired in the airplane.
Yeah.
And look at the culture shift that's happened in the 30 whatever years, or less probably.
And no one's really smoking anymore.
Well, unfortunately, there are still people smoking, but it's definitely not a healthy option.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation, and particularly just going back in time, hearing about your childhood, and being able to trace your journey, and looking at your, having a 5-year plan at age 19, and now you're kind of getting to the end of that, and you've got your business, and things are going along. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you for inviting me and be able to share my journey.
No problem. Great.
Right, thank you.
Cool.